A void in the universe has been filled with aviation. We're going to be talking about Aeroverse on this Taking Off podcast. Hello and welcome to the Taking Off podcast. I'm Dan Milliken.
And I'm Christy Wong.
Christy, I'm really excited about this episode because we have been talking and promoting the new Aeroverse app, and we have the guy who dreamed it up and got it started here with us, Charles Cook. Charles, thanks for coming on.
No problem, Dan. Nice to see you and Christy today.
And you're not nervous at all, are you?
Not at all.
You're used to being in the cockpit of a very large plane or in a cockpit of a biplane. You're not used to being in front of microphones.
You are correct.
All right. Well,
can talk to ATC. Just pretend you're talking to ATC on here.
Okay, roger that.
Perfect. All right. So, a lot of people have been reaching out as I've been talking about Aeroverse. Let's first talk, what is Aeroverse?
Well, Aeroverse is going to be a streaming app, and it's going to be exclusively aviation. But aviation is such a broad band. It's going to cover everything from, let's just say, a hot air balloon, dirigible, ultralight, to Blue Origin, SpaceX, and Virgin Galactic, and the new kind of corporate race to reach the outer space. So everything that wedges in between that. And that means your 172, the antique biplanes, warbirds, and
175s?
175s, and then just the working pilot. And that means 135, Part 91, reposition type stuff, 121, air ambulance, that type thing.
Why did you come up with this? Take me back to how that was born.
Sure. Well, really, if we go all the way to the inception, I just enjoy aviation. Therefore, I always enjoyed seeing a quality aviation experience conveyed on the television, which was quite rare and far in between. And like The Great Waldo Pepper. I always loved that movie and the airplanes. It wasn't just the storyline. And the problem with it is it was very hard to stay engaged in that day to day because there wasn't anything that followed them usually. There were these large gaps. And then as cable TV came on, you could watch a little more. But really what happened is I, by chance, sat at a table with Mike Fletcher, and we met each other and just started talking about his venture into cable television. And I just said, why is there not a aviation channel? Why has that never been on and approached in a way where it's strictly aviation? And his answer was, I don't know. I'm going to look into it. And as we looked into it, we decided that we could pull this together and aim at the aviation community in a very positive way.
And for our audience, Michael Fletcher is a network executive. I've known Michael now for over 15 years, and Michael has created and worked on several networks, creating from scratch Ride TV, which was an equestrian network, as well as serving as executive for EarthX and some others. And through the years, Michael hired my company, S Films, and hired me to produce shows for them. So what was really, really cool about this whole thing is I knew Michael, I knew Charles from the aviation community, and he knew me, but it wasn't until that Michael Fletcher said to Charles, hey, I've got a guy who's a pilot who does TV production. And it's like we already knew each other, and it was like this great mix.
It was very serendipitous, and life is very funny to you, how it pulls you together sometimes and how it flays you apart at others. And This is one where everything just dropped in, and you kind of went, wow, it's weird how the connections work.
Yeah, no, I like it. So where do you fit in all of this, Dan? Where does S Films / Taking Off, where do we fit in?
Okay, so as many of the audience knows, my day job is I run a TV and film production company. So as I've done taking off, as our fans know, have heard me say before, taking off was an experiment. I had a corporate client who wanted to know how to build a YouTube channel, and I didn't really have practical experience. I had book knowledge of how to build it. I'd studied it. So I decided, well, I need to do something. So I started the Taking Off channel as an experiment on how to build a YouTube channel, and it took off.
Pun intended.
Yeah. So, and even Chrissy, I don't know if I've really confessed to you this.
Oh, here we go.
So
Confessions.
We're 4 or 5 months into the Taking Off experiment. I've got all of 500 subscribers, whatever it was. And again, it's an experiment. So I went, okay, I wonder how the videos would do with a male host, me, versus a female host. So that's why I reached out to you originally.
Okay.
Because I wanted
That's
to.
fair.
Yeah, so I wanted to.
I figured that all a while ago.
Well, and I reached out to you because I saw how bubbly and personable you were just on social media and the North Texas Aviators Facebook group. So that's what the draw was. And then we did that flight, and I was like, yeah, I think she could do this.
I like airplanes.
Yes, and it worked out. So then to answer your question, now I can bring the production company muscle that we do to help make some of what Charles' vision is come to light. So you've contracted Serendipitous, my company, to do 2 shows so far.
Correct.
And we're doing Warbird Rebuilders with Chad Ezel. He is the foremost warbird shop in the country, and he's out in West Texas in the middle of nowhere. And then we're also doing a show called Throttle Jockey with Chelsea Smith from Aviation 101 as our host, going in and exploring all the different pilot jobs like you were talking about to really get to know what it takes to be a crop duster, what it takes to be an air ambulance driver, to be a oil derrick out in the middle of the Gulf ferry helicopter pilot. Those kind of things is what we're going to be doing for that.
Right. And I'm really excited about that one because I think that'll open the eyes of a lot of people on what other jobs there are in aviation other than going out of a major airport on a passenger plane.
Right.
Because,
not that there's anything wrong with that, Christy.
Oh, not at all.
No. I mean, I know that. Well, it's funny because when I first started, my flying journey, obviously I wanted to be an airline pilot, but I didn't really know what other airplane jobs were out there, flying
Right.
jobs. And as you start to get into the aviation community, then you kind of start learning. But even still, I'm ignorant to a lot of the different pathways, like oil rig helicopter pilots didn't even realize that was a thing, you know? So, I mean, I do now, but
Yeah.
you don't really know until you're given that information. This is a really, really great way to give people that information so they can kind of explore it.
Yeah, you've got fire pilots, that are doing, fighting fires. You've got air show pilots that are flying helicopters upside down, and what maybe it goes in.
Yeah,
for
we
them.
met one of those guys. He's crazy.
So there's all sorts of pilot jobs out there, and that's really what this show would do.
That's right. And a lot of your airline pilots started out in one of these sliver jobs and moved
Banner
on to
tow.
That's right.
Yeah.
Banner tower. And oddly enough, a lot of your retired airline pilots slip back into them later on in their life. So I think it's something that really has not been explored fully in the open eye of the public. So I'm very excited about that. But that's just half of Aeroverse, because the other half of Aeroverse is just the pure enjoyment of flying. And that translates into every flying job, I think. I think we're all into it for just the joy of flying, to be honest with you. But there is the other side of flying where it's just the joy and there's no paycheck in it. You're just doing it for the pure fun.
Yeah, no, I can get on board with that.
Yeah, right.
Charles, tell us about your background in aviation and how you got into it, and then what you did for a career.
Sure. My background in aviation really starts for me when I was born. My father was a DC-3 pilot for Trans-Texas. My mother was a stewardess on the airline, and that's
Back
where
when they called them stewardesses.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
Wow.
and they met, and I was born out of that marriage. So I grew up in an
You were
aviation.
born on a DC-3.
Just about. And then as I grew up, I would. My grandfather spent a lot of time with us, and he was actually a very early aviator. He learned at the Curtis School of Aviation when it
Wow.
was very small, and he had an airplane called the Little Looper. If you want to look that up, it's his first aerobatic plane, and he got crippled in that, and came from a very smart family. They were all engineers, and he became a mechanical engineer after that accident. And he ended up as the head of Buick Aviation Division, which really kept
Buick.
Yes.
Okay.
So they were building aviation parts in addition to the automotive parts. And he was the head of the aviation division. And during World War II, they were building Pratt & Whitney licensed engines for the B-24s. So he was over all the B-24 Buick parts.
That's her favorite World
No,
War II
mine is
plane.
the B-25,
Oh, the
Yeah.
B-20. Oh, okay.
the Mitchell.
Okay, yeah. the Mitchell.
Yeah.
Very pretty airplane. So that's how he ended up in Fort Worth and my family. So I'm really third generation aviator, and I would sit and listen to him, and he knew all the early aviators. He knew Amelia Earhart and all that from the parts they had, and he would tell me the stories. So I had this natural interest and push to get into aviation very easily. And so when I was 14, I went out and lived at Caddo Mills for the summer on the sailplane port. And I soloed in sailplanes when I was 14. And then when I was 16, I traded my first car for a Great Lakes biplane.
Nice.
Yeah.
As you do.
as one should.
Yeah. And so I've owned I still own that airplane. I've owned an airplane since I was 16. And I went through high school flying the big biplanes. I learned on just in time. So I transitioned over to power planes out of the sailplanes. And I was on just in time, which was nothing but tailwheel and Wacos and Cubs. And so I did that, and I graduated from high school, and I went to the University of Texas Arlington and got a degree in aeronautical engineering. And I stepped out of that right into a flying job, flying Metroliners for 2.5 years. And at the end of that 2.5 years, I got on at Federal Express, and I've been there for the last 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Flying the big iron.
I think I've got.
They don't have any biplanes left in their fleet.
I
do
wish they did, because that's where my real heart is.
I know.
But no, I flew for them and had a very interesting career. Mainly flew international the entire time, and I really enjoyed it. But I always kept my foot in general aviation, and I think I own 10 or 12 airplanes right now, and
You don't even know the exact number.
I don't. I could sit down and figure it
Wow.
out. But they're all golden era biplanes and big fabric airplanes, and I've always enjoyed that. That's where my real interest is always lain, and that and sailplanes. I've never touched them again since I was a kid, but I still have a deep interest in sailplane flying.
I want to get my glider rating. Chrissy and I went to the UK on a great trip, aviation trip, getting content for taking off with Flying Ice, and we got a chance to fly gliders, and it was just phenomenal.
That was
Well,
extraordinary.
I will tell you, your airmanship will go up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you will never fly something more interesting and engaging in your head than the sailplanes. I found it very, very motivating. And that and biplanes, the old big radial biplanes, sailplane and biplane, that's about all I really want to fly. And like I said, I haven't touched a sailplane since I was 16, but that's how big a mark it left on me.
Yeah. Kevin's got his glider rating.
Yeah, I remember that. And, I remember when we were flying gliders and our instructor, Rob Barsby, said, it woke me up to the fact that every landing in a glider is an emergency landing. So,
Well, and I'm going to throw one more thing on you real quick. If you do go get flying sailplanes, you'll also find out it's one of the most fun aviation communities there are, because launching and retrieving a sailplane is a community effort. It's not like I'm going to go take my airplane out of the hangar and go fly somewhere and come back, put it in the hangar. Well, you may not even see anyone else. In the sailplane, you have to be towed out, hooked up, hooked to the tow plane. He has to climb out and release it. And when you land back on the land, it's an immovable object again. And it's a very fun group to keep that going.
and
in
you have to
motion.
wear the hat, the white
Yeah,
floppy
the
hat,
bucket
right?
hat.
You know what? You made me laugh because I was looking at some pictures that were taken when I was a kid.
And they were all wearing
And
the
I
bucket
was
hats?
wearing, we were wearing the bucket hats. That was the
See,
thing.
I got my bucket hat in
I
the
wouldn't
UK.
do it. I wouldn't do it. I know you wore the bucket hat.
You wouldn't wear the
I don't
bucket
like
hat?
hats.
You have to. You have to wear the bucket hat. You're going to get sunburned so badly.
Yeah.
So
that's
I'm
what
going to
hair's
say this just because we're on a podcast. If you go to the Aeroverse Facebook page, I'm going to put a picture of me wearing the bucket
Oh,
hat.
nice. Okay, so look for
yay.
that. Go to Facebook, look at the Aeroverse, and it's AEROVERSE page, and let's find that picture of Charles in a bucket hat
When I was 14.
when you were 14.
Nice. Okay, I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's how you got started in aviation. That's how Aeroverse got started. How did you guys decide? I mean, if you're going to do a network, we're starting with a video on demand app, you got to have content. How did you guys decide on how you're going to get content?
Well, being a startup, you have to face certain realities. And we don't have, being a startup, we started out with just a sheet of paper and some ideas.
Right.
So we did not have a film locker of stuff that we had already done. And we go, that is something we want to do because we have an idea of what we want to see. So we're going to set up and do that. But to start, we have to find some brought in content. So Nathan Fletcher was very familiar with the film vaults and how to deal with that. So Nathan went to the film vault and we selected out what we thought were some of the very best programs that are basically hidden away from everybody and very hard to obtain, and which goes back to why we started Aeroverse. There's this great content, but it's hard to access. It's hard to string together without being frustrated. Hey, I want to watch more. Well, how do I get more? It's hard to find. And so Nathan went to the film vaults. We selected it, and we have licensed quite a bit of material to bring on to Aeroverse. And that has allowed us to start producing our own content. And we have quite a few series that we're going to be working on, and one of documentary type style that will be new content to go with this. And the idea is we'll never really get away from the film vaults and some of this stuff because there's stuff on there that is wonderfully shot, wonderful location, and to be frank with you, some airplanes that you'll never see move again because of the era it was shot in. We can't, if there are no more of that airplane, then you have to enjoy what was put on film at that time. So we're going to probably stay a mix of going to the film vaults and finding this stuff that hasn't been on forever, and then producing our own stuff like Throttle Jockey and Warbird Restorer, and putting the two together. So I think it'll be quite a varied interest, top to bottom, on what you can watch.
Well, I look at it as a three-legged stool for content that you're doing. You've got the library shows, and you've got well over 200 of those.
Yes.
And everything from Alaska's Ultimate Bush Pilots seasons. You've got Dam Busters, so you go back into history of the World War II Dam Busters, and that's a series. You've got documentaries on like the Silver Spitfire and things like that. It's just really, really cool programming that you'll be able to watch. That's one leg. Another leg is the original programming that you're starting now.
Correct.
And you're going to build a library of a whole bunch of original, and as time goes on, that leg becomes bigger and bigger. And then the third leg is you are licensing popular YouTubers that fit the characteristics that you want to see in people. And you've got Mike Patey, you've got Josh Flowers from Aviation 101, you've got Christopher Potasnik from Baron Pilot, and you've got Taking Off as well. And you're licensing some of that footage. And for those who are saying, well, why should I pay a monthly app fee? Well, it's because it's going to be ad-free.
It's going to be ad-free, but there's more to it than that. The YouTube licensing deals we have done, I'm personally very excited about, because that puts another fresh perspective on aviation. And we're able to go reach the YouTubers that we think are most touching aviation in the right way. So you're
Right.
not having to filter through some other people.
That's a good
Right.
point. That's a
Right.
really good point. There's a lot of really not good information
Right.
out there.
So I think we're bringing the YouTubers with a very good sense of what aviation is, that are not trying to abuse it. Okay.
Right.
They're trying to build aviation.
That's right. They're trying
Yeah.
to build. And the other thing they offer is, so I'm going to use a number here. We have 5 YouTubers. Well, they all get to so we think they're very, very good at connecting to aviation, but it's 5 different perspectives on aviation. It's not a single thought. And you go, well, why should we have to pay for that? That was your question. You're not. You're paying for the rest of it. And in other words, you're getting all this other content with it. So the YouTube just is being on demand. You can watch that at your leisure along with the other stuff. You get to choose. And we think that the YouTubers are actually going to heighten what you watch and the other production stuff. So I think they're a very, very vital part of it, and a very interesting part of what we're doing.
Yeah, I like it.
And it can have a lot of synergy too. As we move down, maybe the YouTubers can make some exclusive content for the Aeroverse.
That is
app.
correct. That's where we're moving. But again, being so early in this, we're just dipping our toes. But where we want to move is having them doing some exclusive content.
Oh, how much is it going to cost?
It is $8.99 a month or $89 a year.
Oh, that's not bad.
So you can do the year and get basically 2 months free.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, and when does it launch, and where can people go, and all that information?
Yep. It launches on December 17th of this year, 2023, which is the date of the first flight of the Wright brothers. We just thought that was very interesting. So 120 years ago, when the Wright brothers made their first flight, we're launching Aeroverse.
You can tell a serious aviator. So, like, when I was telling Christy about this, I said, Aeroverse is going to launch on December 17th. Then you wait and see if any kind of light bulb, and Christy immediately, oh, that's
Yeah,
fitting.
that's the anniversary of powered flight.
She
Like,
knew.
that's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting how that's resonated. And so I'm very excited about that date. It seems like an odd date, yet it's a very inspired date.
Oh, no, I don't think it's odd at all. I think
Yeah.
it's incredibly significant.
Yeah.
And it's going to be on what devices and et cetera?
Well, it's going to be on Apple, Apple Plus, Roku. Help me out here.
Google Store? Like the Google, like will people be able to
It'll be
get
on
it
Android.
Yeah, that's what
Android.
I mean. Yeah. Mhm.
And it'll so basically it'll have mobile apps. It'll have you can get it on the computer, just going through the website even. So a bunch of different ways, but your iPad, you could have it, through Apple.
Right. So
whatever.
it should go right onto your smart TVs is
Yep.
what we're aiming for. But, I'm not real up on all the electronic devices, but even your
You
cell
fly
phone.
biplanes, so
Yeah,
I
I'm
get it.
flying biplanes. But your cell phone has de facto become a TV anymore. So I
Right.
think
This
just
is accurate. Yeah.
any device. And so you can go to www.aeroverse.com to subscribe. And while we're there, I just want to touch on this. We're very excited because AOPA has decided to do some of this with us. And when we talk about the positive influence in aviation, this is one of the biggest ones because they work with so many different groups and people. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to include everybody, not exclude. And AOPA does such a good job in doing that in the aviation community.
Absolutely.
We're very, very excited that they're doing that. And we're still in the very inception of this, but we're going to be showcasing them as well. And I think that is going to be very exciting to do also.
And also, you're going to be giving, I think it's still in the works, giving us codes, YouTubers like Mike Patey and myself and Josh. And if you subscribe via our code, you get a slight discount, and it helps us out too. So I don't know yet. The code's not in place, but can they? And we haven't, as of today, the filming of this podcast, pre-sales are not there yet, but they're about to, right?
The way I understand it, they are going to have it this week.
Yeah, I think
So-
by the time I post this at aeroverse.com, you can probably pre-buy your subscription.
Correct. And that will be at a discount also. So if you
Yeah.
decide to buy a year, we will have a discount on that.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm assuming our code is going to be somewhere
Taking
around,
off, probably.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say somewhere
One
along the
word.
realm of taking off.
Yeah.
I'll tell Nathan and make sure he puts a code taking off. So if there is a code field, use our code taking off. But man, Charles, I'm so excited about this. And not only just as an aviator that can now access over 300 titles of aviation specific content that goes from, hot air balloons all the way to the space race with everything in between. I think that's just great. And in addition to that, just being able to help from my S Films company create shows, I am super excited. It's what I've been working really hard on the last couple of months. While I haven't been able to get her 145 video done in time,
Exactly, yeah.
is because
We've
I've
been talking.
because I've been working really hard on the Aeroverse content that we've been contracted to do, and I hope this thing really kicks off to everybody because it's only going to get better and better, and it's something great for the aviation community.
Yeah, and the aviation, I'm going to say this, community is such a great community that I think we're going to have a lot of fun. And I mean everybody involved because we're going to be able to we're going to go cover some things like the airplane and coffee group. So
Nice.
we're going to start seeing some of our own friends on there. We're going to see some produced stuff that's very interesting from a documentary perspective. We're going to see some series that tell you stories, but overall, we're just going to do it within the community, and we're not going to have to pander to the people outside the aviation community so they understand what's going on. You have to have a little bit of aviation knowledge, and you'll really enjoy this.
Sounds
Yeah.
fun.
All right, well, Charles, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
all the way out from west of Fort Worth to be here in Fort Worth.
Yeah, right.
So, all right. And thank you guys for listening. And again, don't forget to check out Aeroverse.com, AEROVERSE.com. Also, I'd like to thank our sponsors. We've got Flying Eyes. Use our discount code. What is it, Christy?
What was it again? It's taking off. All caps, one word.
At flyingeyesoptics.com, get your 10% off of your eyewear that's made for pilots. Colton Mortgage for your residential mortgage needs, coltontakingoff.com. MPS, Marshall Protective Services mpsprotects.com. 67 designs the best camera, cell phone, tablet mounts that are out there. 67D.com. Zvision, xevision.com, the brightest landing and taxi lights. And ClemensInsurance.net. I recently needed life insurance. I didn't realize Jerry does that too. And he saved me over the other bid that I got. So check out ClemensInsurance.net. So thank you guys for listening to the show. And if you're listening on Facebook, make sure you leave us some comments and tell us what you think about the new app. And we'll see you guys next time on Taking Off.